In a just-published book by reporters Mark Halpern and John Heilman. Here with us live to talk politics, the chairman of both political parties, DNC Chair Governor Tim Kaine and RNC Chair Michael Steele. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning, David.
Let me start with those remarks by Harry Reid as being reported in this new book, Game Change, about the 2008 race. Senator Reid was wowed by Obama's oratorical gifts and believed that the country was ready to embrace a black presidential candidate, especially one such as Obama, a, quote, light-skinned African-American, quote, with no Negro dialect unless he wanted to have one, as he said privately. Reid was convinced, in fact, that Obama's race would help him more than hurt him in a bid for the Democratic nomination. Senator Reid quickly apologized. He spoke to President Obama yesterday, who, as I mentioned, issued a statement saying the case is closed on this. He accepts the apology. Governor Kaine, is the case closed? Should there be a consequence for these remarks?
David, I think the case is closed because President Obama has spoken directly with the leader and accepted his apology. The comments were unfortunate and they were insensitive. They were in the context of praising the senator and acknowledging that the senator could be a great president, but they were still insensitive. I think Senator Reid stepped up, acknowledged that they were wrong, apologized to the president. He's accepted the apology, and we're moving on.
Michael Steele, back in 2002, Trent Lott was ousted as majority leader for racially insensitive remarks. He, at that point, said it's Strom Thurmond, who ran as a segregationist for president, had he been elected president, that the country wouldn't have had some of the problems over all those years. Then State Senator Obama said at that point that Lott ought to be ousted as majority leader. Do you see a difference between then and now?
Oh, yeah, there's a big double standard here. And the thing about it that's interesting is that when Democrats get caught saying racist things, you know, an apology is enough. If that had been Mitch McConnell saying that about an African-American candidate for president of the United States, trust me, this chairman and the DNC would be screaming for its head, very much as they were with Trent Lott. And the reality of it is racism and racist conversations have no place today in America. This term, like he's going to pass, for example, for white America because he's, got this Negro dialect that he can turn on or turn off, and he's light-skinned. That's anachronistic language. It harkens back to the 1950s and 60s, and it confirms to me a mindset that is out of step with where America is today. But I can assure you that if I had, as national chairman, said that, well, it's all behind us and he's apologized, let's move on, no one would be accepting that. There has to be a consequence here if the standard is the one that was set in 2002 with Trent Lott.
Is the consequence that Senator Reid should step down as majority leader?
I believe it is. Well, and from my perspective, whether he steps down today or I retire him in November, either way, he will not be the leader in 2011.
And can the Senate Majority Leader survive an insensitive remark about Barack Obama's race? A new book suggests that Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid thought Barack Obama's candidacy would be helped because he was, quote, light-skinned and had no Negro dialect unless he wanted to have one. Yesterday, one of those weird stories cropped up that set Washington on its ear. A new book, Game Change, by Mark Halpern and John Heilman, reports that during the campaign last year, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid was telling people privately that Barack Obama's campaign would be helped because he was, quote, a light-skinned African-American with no Negro dialect unless he wanted to have one.
Governor Kaine, a new book in the 2008 campaign called Game Change, says of Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, let's put it up, he was wowed by Obama's oratorical gifts and believed that the country was ready to embrace a black presidential candidate, especially one such as Obama, a, quote, light-skinned African-American with no Negro dialect unless he wanted to have one, as he said privately. Governor Kaine, does that kind of language have any place in the leadership of the Democratic Party, and should Harry Reid step down?
Chris, I do not believe he should. And I think Senator Reid did a very big thing yesterday by saying, I used language that, looking back on it, wasn't the right language. The president made very plain in his discussions that he considers Senator Reid a great battler for equality and social justice and considers the book closed. And so I don't think this is an issue that's going to affect his leadership at all. In fact, he's doing some very heavy lifting, wonderful lifting right now to get this health care bill over the goal line, and I think he will continue.
How is this any different from racial remarks that Trent Lott made about Strom Thurmond back in 2002 that forced him out as the Republican leader in the Senate?
Well, I think if you look at the remarks, as I have, it was all in the context of saying positive things about Senator Obama and why he might be a wonderful,
light-skinned,
positive things about his candidacy and why his candidacy would be strong. And so I think, you know, again, while he said the choice of words was unfortunate, he stepped right up to it, acknowledged it, and said, look, I said things that I shouldn't have or I should have said differently. It definitely was in the context of recognizing in Senator Obama a great candidate and future president. And that's why they're working so well together, and I know they'll continue to do that.
Mr. Steele, should Reid step down, and how objectionable do you think his remarks were?
Well, I think he should. I mean, if the standard is the one set by the Trent Lott incident where he was wishing happy birthday to Strom Thurmond and talked about him as a possible president at the time, you know, 1948 or whatever, compared to calling a candidate for president, you know, light-skinned Negro. The reality of it is this, that there is this standard where Democrats feel that they can say these things and they can apologize when it comes from the mouths of their own. But if it comes from anyone else, it's racism. It's either racist or it's not, and it's inappropriate, absolutely. So if the standard is the one that we saw with Trent Lott as Speaker, as a leader at the time, then I think this absolutely falls in that category. It's more than just an apology here. It's a reflection of an attitude. Now, remember, this is the same leader who just a few weeks ago was talking about health care in the context of slavery. Clearly, he is out of touch, not only with where America and his district are, but how African Americans generally feel about these issues.
Governor Kane?
Well, I would just go back to it. If you look at those comments, they clearly were in the context of praising Senator Obama as a great candidate and a great president.
Negro dialect, light-skinned, that's praise?
And it actually, if you look at the comments, and you read
those specific words, that's praise?
Those particular words, the senator has said he regrets them and they weren't appropriate. And the important thing is the president right away said, this is a closed book because I know Senator Reid's heart. I know the kind of person he is. And as you read the comments earlier, I think they are a fair representation. They were supporting the senator as a great leader and as a great president, and that's why Senator Reid and President Obama have worked so well together to get America really going back the right direction in the last year.
If Mitch McConnell had said those very words, that this chairman and this president would be calling for his head, and they would be labeling every Republican in the country as a racist for saying exactly what this chairman has just said. So if I sat here and said what he just said, if Mitch McConnell used those words, no one would find it to be credible. And so if it's not credible for me saying it, it's certainly not credible for the Democrats to sit back and go, well, it was in the context of saying something nice. If it's an old mindset when you're using language in 2008 that harkens back to the 1950s and 60s.
Mr.